Tragedy near San Antonio this evening, the deadliest church killing in U.S. history, the worst mass shooting on Texas soil. More than 25 people were killed as they came out of Sunday morning service at a small church in South Texas. Good evening to you. I'm Chris Rogers. Sutherland Springs, Texas embodies what small-town America is all about. But today, the tiny city of just under 1,000 people had their world turned upside down. The peace of a Sunday morning church service was shattered by the sound of gunfire. When it was all said and done, at least 26 people were killed and dozens more are seriously injured. We have a reporter on the ground there tonight. We'll hear from him in a moment. But first, let's tell you what we know. Witnesses say they heard rapid gunfire around 11:30 this morning near Sutherland Springs First Baptist Church. All in all, at least 26 people were killed in that shooting. That number could still rise. The youngest victim was just 5 years old. When the shooter left the church, someone stepped in and grabbed his rifle. The gunman then got in his car and drove away. Police say that he crashed and was later found dead in his car. He has been identified as 26-year-old Devin Kelly of New Braunfels. The first victim has been identified as 14-year-old Annabelle Renee Pomeroy. Her father was a pastor at that church. He was out of town in Oklahoma at the time of the shooting. He wants the world to know his daughter was, quote, one very beautiful and special child. And tonight, hundreds of people are remembering the 26 people who were killed. They're holding a vigil in Sutherland Springs. That's where we find our own Curtis Quillen, who is live for us tonight just outside the church where this all happened. Curtis, good evening to you. What can you tell us tonight?
Well, good evening to you, Chris. I'm standing in front of, and you can see it behind me, the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. That's where at about 11:20 this morning, Wilson County Sheriff Joe Tackett says Devin Patrick Kelly entered the church with a rifle, opening fire and killing 26 people, injuring about 20 more. After that shooting, he then fled in a vehicle as he was confronted by a resident here in Sutherland Springs with a gun. The shooter was later found dead in his car in Guadalupe County, just a few miles from where we stand here in Sutherland Springs. At this hour, it remains unclear whether the shooter was killed or whether he took his own life. Injured were taken from here to hospitals in San Antonio, including the San Antonio Military Medical Center on Fort Sam Houston. Tonight here in Sutherland Springs, though, the mood is somber, as 4% of a town of roughly 640 people was just murdered this morning inside of a church. Hundreds of people, including people from nearby towns like Lavernia, Stockdale, and Floresville, came to pay their respects, and one man told us he was in shock.
We all in here know what happened today, and it's something we all say does not happen in small communities. Well, we found out today it does. We need your support.
This investigation is clearly ongoing and just underway. We are still unsure. DPS won't tell us yet whether the bodies of those who were killed have been removed from the church or whether they remain inside the chapel. Now, the families of roughly 50 families this evening are deep in prayer. Prayer for loved ones who were taken far too soon, and prayer for loved ones who are now in the fight for their lives, as a shooting here in Sutherland Springs has now knocked the Columbine High School massacre out of the top 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. We're live in Sutherland Springs, Texas tonight. Curtis Quillen, Channel 6 News. Chris.
All right, Curtis, thanks so much. 3 mass shootings rocked the U.S. in the past 17 months, including today's, and they are some of the nation's bloodiest. Today's is now the deadliest in Texas, the one all others will now be compared to. It surpasses the Luby's cafeteria shooting in Killeen back in 1991. George Hennard drove his pickup through the front of the restaurant, then opened fire, killing 23 people. Until today, the Luby's cafeteria shooting in Killeen was the Texas's worst shooting tragedy. Now, as soon as the news spread earlier today, the president and other politicians took to Twitter to offer condolences and prayers to those affected in Southeast Texas. The governor just tweeting a powerful image tonight saying, "We are praying for you, Texas." He has since offered condolences as well. President Trump tweeting his support. He says, "May God be with the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas. The FBI and law enforcement are on the scene. I am monitoring the situation from Japan." President Trump has also denounced the Texas church shooting in spoken remarks today during his Asia trip as an act of evil, saying the state has his administration's, quote, full support. He is in the second day of a visit to Japan, part of a 5-day nation Asian trip. He spoke of unity and coming together.
But in dark times, and these are dark times, such as these, Americans do what they do best. We pull together. We join hands, we lock arms, And through the tears and through the sadness, we stand strong, oh so strong.
As we mentioned, today's shooting marks the deadliest shooting in the state's history. It comes 8 years to the day that an Army psychiatrist opened fire on Fort Hood in 2009.